Weird, what was that intro about? Anyway, apropos of nothing, guys, let's talk about this build here today, the strongest build from Reginald. Now, I saw this thumbnail floating around, and to be honest with you, the build is called the Alpha Primus, but he put the strongest build up here, and I think honestly this is the only thing that, I guess, thumbnail success, right? It caught my attention, but man, do I have some disagreements here. And Reginald full well knows a couple of these, because I was in his stream last night and we were discussing just this. For instance, he thinks the flame skull is not utter hot garbage, and I mean, you guys be the judge, but we'll get into that a little bit later on. This build, to me, even with my lack of experience as compared to Reginald, and my lack of skill as compared to Reginald, is missing a ton of optimization. It is nowhere near the strongest build, and I think that, yeah, while it is a fun and thematic build, it does definitely play on a lot of stuff that people that are new to the Skitarii are gonna want to use, which is awesome, right? Using new stuff is cool. It is not really abusing the strongest stuff in the game. And I think this might be an advantage that I have as a worser player than Reginald, is I tend to try to find stuff that is a very good crutch, because I like my crutches, right? I lean on them a lot, I lean on them hard, and so I will try to find builds that mathematically defeat the game. They just sort of mollywop the fuck out of any given difficulty because they are, you know, overtuned for what should be allowed. And yeah, so I want to go in here in completely good spirit, by the way. I don't mean, like, obviously this is build discussion fucking Darktide. Who cares? And I say that full well knowing there are people that care a lot and are going to be upset about me making this video and upset about Reginald for having made this video. But those people, I disown them. I disavow. Okay, so we're going to move on here and we're going to discuss, first starting with the weapons before we even get to the talent tree, because the talent tree is going to be it's going to be a lot on the talent tree. So starting off with the weapons. I agree on one of these weapons, I disagree on the other. If we're saying, again, this is going to be what I'm going back to here, if we're going to put this in the thumbnail, the strongest build, right, the Alpha Primus, if this is supposed to be the archetypical, also he says down here, this is his primer, this will prove out to be the strongest build for average Havoc player. There is no way, unless the Transonic Blades get an absurd buff in the first patch that maybe Reginald knows about, and he's like, you know, kind of hinting and seeking to whisper to us. He knows full well as well, based on what I've heard him say on stream, that these are not like S-tier weapons, right? The Transonic Blades are fine weapons. They have some cool movesets. I love how complex they are. It feels awesome to be able to swap back and forth between those modes. However, they do not have the raw power that other weapons do on this class, right? There are tons of other weapons on the class. Let's go ahead and just open a build edit ourselves and we'll kind of mimic alongside. Can we like duplicate the build? Copy? Oh, that's just going to copy the thing, isn't it? Isn't it? Okay, Games Lantern, put a thing in here so I can clone someone else's build and then riff on it. Anyway, but let's go to the build editor here. So yeah, first Skitarii, what do we have as for options? Out of these here, I mean, obviously it's not the chain swords, but the most powerful melee weapons on this class, hands down, we've got the shock mauls down here, fight me. We've got the Katachan combat blades. We've got the Arc Maul. These would be the three that I would say are eligible to be considered quote unquote the strongest. I need to do more testing with the Mechanicus Power Sword here. I think that the moveset might be lacking, but I'll get back to you on that. But at least those three weapons there are just factually gonna be way more powerful. These are just statistically like crazy weapons, especially the synergies we have here and the arc builds you can make with the Arc Maul. I've just been getting into this lately. These things are insane. They can just like clap enemies who are like 30 feet away with just the chain lightning that you're not even like remotely close to them, plus they have a strong baseline. I just think that if we're talking about the strongest, the Transonic Blades are not, unfortunately, really not in that running. And I think a lot of players are coming to that conclusion as well as they're playing. Like, I feel like I'm missing something here because they were expecting the Dueling Sword 2 with these things because they look so fucking cool, etc., etc. They were expecting shivs, right? And they're not shivs. They are not the strongest weapon on the class. So that puts us out of the running, but it's okay. We'll plow on. As far as the stats down here, definitely cleave efficiency is the dump, so agree there. Carapace unyielding, that's fine, right? Two big targets, so we want to put more damage into them. I do disagree, however, with this right here. Rampage is a weak blessing. We do not need an extra 18% damage when we're hitting 3 enemies with an attack. These blades, yes, they can cleave hordes pretty well, like, you know, they do a good little slashy. However, when do you need 18% extra damage? That is a very small amount of extra damage as compared to what some other stuff on this weapon can provide. Even if we were using this weapon, right, as far as other other blessings we should probably be going with here, you could do something like Perfect Strike and get that additional cleave through hit mass, which is amazing for the sweeps. You could do Precognition, which is an absurdly strong blessing because we're always trying to dodge and stuff. You could add 16% more crit chance, or you could go with Superiority, which I think would probably be a nice, well-rounded, especially considering he said this is for Havoc, right? And so when you have this weapon equipped, if you're killing in melee, right, you're getting those buffs, but also if your servo-skull, which he does have the upgraded servo-skull here, if that gets a kill, that will also give you credit towards the superiority stacks while this weapon is still in your hands. So you're going to get up to 30% melee strength, which is a lot. Is a lot, and they fall off only one at a time, so you'd have reasonably good uptime with this. Definitely a lot better than 18% flat damage when you're hitting 3 enemies with attack only, right? But yeah, probably Precognition would be the strongest all around. So outside of that, I mean, I just don't think this is the strongest weapon. I think we can both agree on that. However, he did nail it on the blast pistol here. This is definitely the strongest ranged weapon. By the way, I'll be putting out like sort of my thoughts on what the strongest weapons on the class are in like a couple days time. I need a little bit more time to go through all of them. Obviously, braced autoguns, you're definitely going to be at the peak. Sarcasm there. Dumping mobility is definitely the right play here, but I have questions. I have a question for God. Why do we care about specialist and maniac damage? Because I don't know, it's just me when I'm in here, and I have a different build, right? But when I'm in here and I'm shooting at specialists, they just die. Like, I mean, just what, 2 shots or something like that? These guys all just die in 1. So that's dead. I can't. Where's my health bars? Thank you, health bars. Thank you, enemies improve. Right, like these enemies just die or they get burned. It depends on like what buffs we have up at the time. But like, I don't know if 10% specialist is really what we want to be speccing into here. One thing that I think is definitely missing, regardless of what we're going to do here, is unyielding. This pistol is disgusting at bosses. Just to point this out, right? Look at this damage, right? This is the boss damage we could be putting out by just being a lazy bastard with this pistol and just doing this. And this is at the lower end of what we can be doing with the pistol. What if we pair it with a weapon like this? Where, oops, I don't even have anything in my build, do I? But if we pair it with a weapon like this and we grab like System Shock, for instance, then we can go like this. Oh, and we could even go one more. Here, there we go. Do that, and then look at this damage. Right? Look at, oh my god, this is ridiculous. So not putting unyielding on here, this is one of the most trivializing weapons for bosses in the game. It just dunks on them, and those burn stacks are the key to all of it. So I think Reginald and I, we talked about this as well before. I think he's legit crazy for not making at least one of these 2 perks here into that lovely 15 stack Infernus. And by the way, the 15 stack Infernus, playtesters, that looks a lot like more than 15 stacks to me. That looks like 16. So this weapon can actually go over its stack cap inadvertently and get you to the full stack of 16 stacks of fire. And by the way, when you have the skull, right, the best part about this weapon entirely is its synergy with the skull, which he is using. Because all we got to do is get to that 15 stacks of fire. There we go. And then we put the skull on. And the skull will just hold him there. Oh, I don't have the talent for it. Hold on. Gotta remember, I just took all my talent points out. For the skull, oh fuck, I undid it. Ammo. Okay, get him to 16 stacks, and there we go. And now the skull just holds him here for free, right? So as long as you just remember to tag the skull on him every so often, he'll just go do his thing, and that boss is going to burn to death. the speed that the skull's basically just doing all the work, right? That is the power that this burn stack application can give for us here. Plus, it's keeping that brittleness debuff on him. See, he's got that brittleness debuff up there forever because of that sustain. So that is what makes this pistol so crazy powerful, is that Infernus thing. As far as the other blessing, it's fine, whatever. The thing has 21% base crit from this critical bonus here, which is insane. I prefer to guarantee those crits, so I'm going for the Crucian Roulette. So the last 2 are like more or less guaranteed crits. Surgical's good too. You're just gonna have to aim down the sights more. I find that when I'm in game, I am not like aiming down sights with this thing like this. I'm just going, or like I'm more just like pulling out and just doing that on enemies. Because this thing has absurd like quick fire time like that. Just pull it out, boom, it knocks enemies back, and then you follow up. But yeah, that's the strength I think of this weapon. Man Stopper though, you know, I guess it's okay. It has a really high crit, and when it does cleave through enemies, it can apply its burns, or not. He doesn't have burns, but it can apply its damage increased thing taken to it. I don't know. I think he's definitely right in the weapon. I just definitely think he should be focusing on the crazy, crazy stuff this can do when you're dunking on those more soft targets. Okay, let's move on from there and go on to the Curios, where I have some issues here. This is just not very good Curio setup. He does have some revive speed here, which is definitely good. I personally believe that all three of these Curios should have revive speed. Reason being, revive speed is the one of these things that if you don't have it, you could lose the game on the spot. Now, guaranteed, granted, is what I meant to say. He does have the revive robot in here, the revive servo drone. We'll talk about that later. So that's good. Maybe he doesn't feel like the need to get it as much because of the servo drone. That's fine. What is lacking from here, though, that he desperately needs and needs to be considered immediately is triple combat ability regeneration. So with the way that the Curios work is that positive attributes like combat ability regeneration, stamina regeneration, and revive speed, these are additive. They do not reduce in value the more you get. And combat ability regeneration, I will contend, is the most single important thing that you can put on a Curio for this class. Reason being is because this class has charges. So when we consider a class that has a charges like this, especially if you're running redline capacitors, which I think might be the meta keystone right now that Reginald is running in his build, this thing right here makes you have 5 charges, right? So think about this. Capacitance is a little bit different than cooldown. However, when I slash, look at my cooldown there, 43 seconds, went to 42 immediately. If I don't have those Curios, here's Curios that don't have any of that cooldown time on there. I don't even need this, but it's whatever, it doesn't matter. And I do the same thing with the Cord Claw Strike. Did I have an ability? I had an ability, didn't I? Yeah. Okay, there we go. I do the same thing with the Cord Claw Strike here. 49 seconds, right? And it was a fat 49. So ultimately, that's 50 full seconds versus 43 point something seconds you have to wait in order to get this up. And it's cutting 12% off of the battery you require to replenish a charge. Well, what does that mean? Over the course of 5 charges, let's say you theoretically bottom out your battery all the way to 0 and you had to refill up. That would take an average non-Curio wielding Skitarii 500%, right, to build their capacity to put 5 full stacks. But it takes a player who's using that 12%, because it takes them 12% less per stack, 440%, right, to build to full charges. And having a charge versus not having a charge is a desperately massive difference, right? And because this class can generate them so quick, it's very, very nice. The other thing that I've noticed here is that for whatever reason, this is extra goated on this skill, Advanced Combat Doctrines, because this, and I think this might be something that maybe Cooley's guide gets wrong, but he says that what this ability does, or what this cooldown does, is it reduces the cap on the battery, makes it refill faster. But my testing with this indicates that it might just be multiplying the sources of your generation, which would effectively have the same thing going on, except when you are using this ability, you actually get to use the ability for longer when it is in its active phase than you would if you don't have the cooldown. So even though it's easier to charge charges, it's both easier to charge charges when you have combat ability regeneration, and it's easier to, or it lasts longer when you're in a charge, which only makes sense if we're considering that it's multiplying the passive regeneration that we're getting while we're in this. And I just noticed, why the fuck don't I have this 1% per second in here? I am throwing the game actively. What should I take? I love her. I'm just like stopping in the middle of this video to fix this build. That's how you know I'm devoted, okay? That's too good to take. That's too good. I guess it's just like this. 1% per second. Man, I can't believe I really fucked myself with this one. Yeah, I guess it's, oh, it's this. Yeah, the 10% damage. That's weak. Okay, there we go. All right, 1% per second. Now, nice, juicy. So this will make our thing last even longer. Anyway, I digress. So yeah, it makes this ability last longer and recharge faster. Of course, it makes all of your charges come back faster, 12% faster, which is massive. It should be on every single Curio for this class. You will notice the difference. You will definitely notice the difference. The one other thing, I don't necessarily know if this class desperately needs stamina. the class is pretty immobile as it is. I think that it benefits definitely because it's got so many percentage regenerations for going to toughness, but whatever, stamina is fine too. Another thing that is an issue here is this gunner damage resistance. So the way that this works is that these, because they are negative modifiers, they are debuffing enemy damage that's done to you, they are actually multiplicative, which is really unfortunate, right? You would look at this and say, oh, it's a 20% damage resistance Curio, 20% and 20%, that's 60% reduction, right? However, it's only a 47% reduction, I believe. Let me go ahead and math that on the calculator while I yap a little bit here. But basically, the math you do here to figure this out is you would take the damage that you were initially dealt, let's say theoretically it's 100 damage, we'd multiply it by 0.8, that gave me 80 by the way on the calculator. Then the next Curio would come into play here, 20% more reduction, I'd multiply that resulting damage by 0.8, that's 64, and then I'd multiply that a third time by 0.8, and I'm getting 51.2. So I'm going to now take 51.2 percentage of the damage that I would normally take, which means the reduction is only 48%. So that last Curio, we got 20% damage reduction out of the first one, 36, so 16% out of the next one, and the last one brought us to 48, only 12% effectiveness on damage reduction out of that third one. To me, not worth it. Put it in some other form of damage reduction, like bombers. Those are pretty good because it applies the ticks from the gas, or you could experiment with a new aura up here with Resurgence and try that out, but just getting more ally revive speed on there, because he is missing ally revive speed, he is missing combat ability regeneration, would definitely be worth sacrificing that last one there. So anyway, that's all I want to talk about the Curios. Curios are boring to most people, so we'll move past that. Alrighty, now let's get into the meat and potatoes of this, which is the talent tree. Again, like I said at the beginning, Reginald is a more experienced player than me. However, even without having the most experience at these Katarias here, I can point out a number of things here that we cannot say that this is the best way to play the class. There are just obviously optimizations to be made here, and that's what I want to do in the friendliest way possible, because I want people to get information that's going to help their builds to really excel. And there are some really head scratchers in the group here. So let's start out over here on the right side and we'll work our way around. Ammo cell augury. This is fine, I guess. I mean, 25% ammo, it's probably just to offset some of our lack of ammo on Havoc, but I still kind of feel like if we're not, maybe he's just spamming this into hordes or something like that. I find myself not really using my phosphor all that much, except when I'm sniping specials, and actually I guess it use it quite a lot. But I played a game of Havoc here that I'll be demonstrating some stats from in a second, Havoc 38, so it's like almost the full ammo reduction, and didn't really have any ammo issues. Even with 2 ammo hungry characters on the team, we had an Ogre Rumbler spamming. So that's one thing. The other is we ignored getting these 2 talents right here, which are tremendous. Threat Detection Imperative is a massive uptime talent. Especially some of these talents. We'll talk about more about talents that we should be getting as we go on, but yeah, these 2 are very good pickups for most builds, but we'll come back to that. Okay, moving down this way, everything over here seems fine to me, no problems there. But when we get to Cord Claw Strike, this is where we start to have issues. And the first and most obvious issue, well, there's really just one issue here. He's chosen this talent here, Slice and Dice, instead of this one, Satiated Steel. Okay, so this is going to go into just, okay, what is our build design around doing, right? Well, we are using redline capacitors. With redline capacitors, your whole deal is generating charges, and by generating charges, you generate more charges. That's how you keep stacks of redline capacitors up. That is the power of this ability. The more charges that you have, and the more you are spending them and gaining them, the more power you have out of this talent, which is going to make you tankier and going to make you gain more capacitance, right? So that's a feedback loop. And then we also have a number of other talents in here that gain a ton of power when you're using your abilities as well, which we are neglecting. So what you're doing by choosing Slice and Dice here is, sure, you can get an additional 60% damage for 5 seconds if you use 3 abilities back to back to back. But what's happening when you're using those 3 abilities back to back? You're losing out on a ton of power from advanced power management, because now you are sitting at a lower power level for a long time. This can be really powerful. You're also losing a ton of toughness damage reduction from residual current buffer, not having that sitting at near the max stacks. By sitting at near max stacks with this, we're getting a ton of passive buffs. So Satiated Steel is awesome here. Let me demonstrate based on some uptime from a pretty reasonable Havoc 40. So you can see, where am I? There I am, Fork. So here's me, not too bad, right? We took 520 damage. It's kind of sloppy, but we did some damn good boss damage. Plenty of horde specials killed, etc., etc. But that's not the important part. The important part was right down here, satiated steel. So this is the uptime on that talent, 20.8% out of 25 minutes and 31 seconds of combat. And what that ultimately breaks down to, I went ahead and did the math ahead of time, is that amounts to 1,592% extra ability gained, because it was about like 300 and something seconds worth, or 5 minutes or so, 20% of this, 5 minutes or so worth of this being active, which is then 5 times that amount in percentage capacitance. So we had almost 1600% capacitance generated by this talent alone, aka 16 extra Chord Claw strikes across the course of the mission. That's a lot. And of course, this doesn't even account for the fact that 25% capacitance is going to be multiplied further by our other stats. Now, what is this going to lead into? Why do we want to generate so much capacitance? Well, let's go over here and check out some talents. Check this out. So, Sequence Charge. Gain 12.5% strength on gaining a charge. Last 10 seconds. What was my uptime on that ability there? Where is it? Sequenced. There it is. 12.5% strength on gaining a charge, lasting 10 seconds. 54% uptime. Massive, right? That's almost like 7% strength for the whole game. That is huge that we're getting that. We're also constantly getting another talent on the other side of the board called 15% Mode Beam Conductor, 15% damage for 10 seconds on ability use, with almost a 50% uptime there. And look at our advanced power management stats here. Our average stacks of advanced power management were 4.4, meaning we had 20% strength on average, sometimes 5 or sometimes 25, and we had an uptime of 49 of half the game. So we have a ton of stacking strength, stacking damage buffs because we're using our attacks all freaking time. So that is amazing, and we're neglecting to do that by not having more ultimates to keep our stacks rolling in with satiated steel. Now, getting up here, there's another very obvious sub-optimization with Red-line capacitors. He is taking capacitory limit override. This is doing nothing. This is like useless. 15% rending, it does almost nothing entirely. It literally does like within like 1,000 damage. Like the Chord Claw strike to the face with a full setup from my build here with this versus without it is literally like less than 1,000 damage different. And we're talking on a strike. I mean, listen. Let's just go demonstrate it in the friggin' thing, so I can just show this. Watch this.
Good. Another worthless.
We can do some real time testing. Give me a boss. That's not a boss. That's a little guy. Give me a boss. We got a chaos spawn. Okay, let's go ahead and stack our talent up here. Let's stack to 5 stacks. Okay, so we're at 5 stacks, and then we're gonna make certain everything else is held equal. Stab him in the face. Okay, cool. Look at that. 3670, 36,700. And then if we do this, and we're going to add in this talent, we're going to pull it out of here. We're going to add this talent right here, right? Okay, spawn the boss. Make sure we get the last stack there. Reset our talent, and then we'll go literally like 100 damage different. Why? Because this claw already has 50% rending. Does he need the 15% rending on the swords? I don't know, probably not. It's probably not gaining a whole lot, in terms of the swords, because 15% isn't that much, and you wouldn't be running into that rending problem if you're using a better weapon, like the Shock Maul or the Arc Maul. Now, the obvious choice here is this right here, Surge Extension. This is an incredible talent. I cannot believe he would not take this on any build, especially when using redline capacitors. Gain a 25% toughness over 5 seconds when you gain a redline capacitor stack. Reminder, you gain a redline capacitor stack by using or gaining an ability charge, which we are doing fucking constantly. Look at this one. Where is that? Here's redline capacitors. What's our uptime, you think, on gaining charges? If we're sitting at 97% uptime, which means that where's our regeneration thing? Here it is. 46.7% of the game, we are generating 25% toughness over 5 seconds. So an extra, 5%, 5% toughness per second for half the game with this talent. And of course, it's occurring right off the back of when we use an ability, which is generally in the thick of combat, like when you're actually taking a lot of attacks. So that is some really, really devastating, missing out on that right there, which is just adds so much comfort and playability to the build. Now let's go back to his build, and we got to focus on some stuff we didn't take before we even get into the blitz stuff over here. This whole portion of the tree right here is absolutely crucial. I mean, it's so strong on this character. First of all, we're missing a ton of this capacitance regeneration stuff. Why are we not hitting 3 or more enemies in an attack or building into cleave? Why are we not generating 1% capacitance per second? The whole thing with redline capacitors here is to generate more capacitance, and the more talents you have that generate capacitance, the more value you get out of it and the more abilities you can spam. And as we all know, spamming abilities, especially Chord Call, is pretty fucking good, right? Now, over here is where I really want to draw focus. Maybe not so much Binary Ballistics Protocol, but 100% Mobian Conductor. I pointed that one out in my uptime. 50% uptime on this ability, which is insane. Then we also have Augmented Power Cycler here, which is just going to be generating 1% per second. This is a 50% increase to your base rate, so you're generating more while you're just doing nothing. Electrical critical hits, electrocute the first target hit. This is a very, very valuable talent. I mean, it just stuns stuff. Maybe he's not using it on his swords, but I would definitely think that he would have considered some of this stuff, like electrocuting enemies applies brittleness. All of these up here, just in general, electrocution adds so much damage to this character because these are things that can scale with your current charges. And again, this might not necessarily be the focus of his build, is to come up here, but there's a lot of fluff over here that we could be trimming out, like ammo reserve and stuff, and devoting it over there instead. And I guarantee you would see much higher numbers and just a general more comfortable experience across the board. Okay, so I mean, yeah, I think that the big criticisms I would have here are we should probably be finding a way to get over here and go for capacity reclamation loop and definitely get this augmented power cycler. Anything else is to taste. So then we had to finalize over here on Artificer servo-skull. The skull itself is fine. It's these two that's probably the problem. This is a fine node, right? Taking Medicaid servo-skull, it gives you blitz charges that exist, and it gives you a get out of jail free for a character for 4 times, as long as you don't lose your grenade charges. You probably won't have to refill them in the game if you just use it like that. It's a pretty good little tool in that case, so I have no complaints with that. But can we be serious for a second here? Like, be honest with me, Reginald. Purgator servo-skull. Really? Really? You think that this is included as a, first of all, optional talent point? You don't have to choose this, right? You could put it literally anywhere else in the tree, and we're putting it here. You think this is an optimal, good pick for the class? I mean, shit, dude. The fucking video that you put out starts with this.
Reginald here.
Does this look like something you would want to invest a talent point in? This level of power here, where all these enemies that are standing still, mind you, that are not able to do anything, they take a full 16 seconds to kill maulers. When do you have that fucking time? This is a Havoc build. The game spawns maulers that are moving at light speed, all over the place. Nothing's gonna stand this tiny ass cone, and unless you think that this ability has some generosity or some use that I'm not thinking of here, look how ridiculously cheap this ability is. Imagine giving the player any power with this flamethrower at all, right? Okay, look at this. Let me get it nice and precise. Okay, see that mauler on the right? See how he's not standing in the cone, right? But you would think, it's a flamethrower. It's pretty hot next to it. He should probably get some burn stacks. And then the gunner on the right there, he's half in it. So let's see what sort of damage we deal to these characters. So you see that this thing is oscillating slow as fuck, and this guy is actually getting half of the stacks because he was only half in the zone, and this guy, even though he was a millimeter away from the edge of that, got no fucking stacks. And it wouldn't matter anyway because it takes a million years to die. And then when we talk about the AoE mode, and of course these little jobber enemies, they die in what? 3 or 4 seconds, which is still a long fucking time for this game. But then we have Mobian 21st enemies, who are the common replacement enemies in Havoc and in a lot of Auric games, and look how long they take to die from this thing. Where what you need to get rid of these guys is a horde clear sort of thing. Any day now. Any day now. Okay, finally we died at what, 8 seconds into the 10-second flame effect. So yeah, I mean, this is just abysmal. The rotating nature of it, I get what they were going for. They didn't want it to just be fire in all directions like an immolation grenade, to just be the zealot's immolation grenade again. But the fact that it rotates around means it's never going to stack up enough flame stacks on anything that has any amount of health to considerably do any damage. Right? It's going to take a year to stack up the stacks because it's exponential, right? You don't get as much from the first stack as you do from like the 10th or 11th stack. So like it takes us all the way until the very end of the 10-second duration to get any reasonable damage, and no one is standing within it. Because what happens if the enemy moves away during that period of time where the sprinklers face the other direction? They lose all their stacks, they get reset, they do no fucking damage. So this thing, I mean, let's just add a baseline, right? At a baseline, this costs a grenade. If you use a grenade on this and you also have Medicaid servo-skull like Reginald does in his build, and what happens after that is like someone goes down and you need that to get them back up, what a fucking waste, right? What instance would you ever want to use a flamer skull, which is going to contribute like, I mean, what to a fight? Like realistically, what is this going to contribute to a fight? Is it going to like have an impact on whether or not you win the fight or not? I would say definitely not. And the Medicaid servo-skull, if you don't have it when you need it, it's losing the game, right? So you're just going to sit on these and save them the entire time and just have them when you need them. If there's only one situation I could ever see using this in, when you also have Medicaid, and that's if you're in the exit elevator and you want to pad your stats. Because otherwise, if you use it at any other time, there's a chance that someone gets trapped and hogtied or whatever, and you need to save them and you don't have it. So you cannot be wasting it on this garbage. It's just garbage. It literally does nothing. And then even outside of that, even if we just didn't even consider Medicaid servo-skull at all and the cost thereof and the cost to your team by taking grenades from them, the Purgator servo-skull is a worse talent point than pretty much every other talent point that you have access to in this tree. I mean, just going through them right here. Look. Okay, we have one talent point to spend, right? Let's remove this. Then we can go here, Resurge Extension, and get, what was that? Again, 25% toughness over 5 seconds. What's my uptime on that in my game? There it is. I had a 46% uptime on this talent. 25% of your toughness every 5 seconds. That is a massive, massive uptime. Why are we not taking this? Why are we not taking the 10% toughness every 3 seconds? Why are we not taking the pushes to have more impact? Why are we not taking, how good would this be, right? We're using the Cord Claw, which is counted as a heavy attack. We could take this, which gets 15% more Cord Claw damage, and it makes you uninterruptible while you're charging your heavies, right? That would be good for your meleeing. And then we're also just neglecting, as I said earlier, a ton of other talents, like these over here, Galvanic Marking Rate, Threat Detection Imperative. Holy shit, look at this. Threat Detection Imperative is up here for me. We had a 90.8% uptime on this talent with average almost 4 stacks, which means we're getting like 16% toughness damage reduction almost the entire game long, passively from our skull getting kills. Like that was one talent point away that we spent on Purgator servo-skull instead. We also are neglecting a ton of these red nodes that could be regenerating so many more ultimates. What's better, right? What's better? Having whatever the fuck that Purgator servo-skull is supposed to be doing, or having 1% more capacitance per second, or capacitor reclamation loop, right? We're just one talent point away from that. We could save it somewhere else. Like that is the difference being made here, is we're spending a point where it's absolutely not necessary, and it is adding literally almost nothing to the build. I would actually love Reginald to show me his like scoreboard. I don't know if he runs mods. He might not run mods. Someone that plays with Reginald, hit me up. Give me this guy's details, okay? Show him. I want to see the scoreboard where he's running with you with this, and I want to see what that stupid skull is doing, because I bet it's nothing, and I just don't know. It's like, I don't want to be like too mean about it, because I like Reginald a lot, but this is just so comically, this skull sucks, dude. It's so bad. Everybody can see that it's bad. Everybody watched this and went, huh, really? That's what we're starting with, is 17 seconds to kill a mauler. My man. All right. Anyway, so I mean, that's it. I just wanted to talk about that for a little bit. Obviously, I was just having some fun with talking about how we'd actually optimize this. As I said earlier, if you want to have a fun with this Skitarii, these are the things that people want to, I guess this is the idea of the build, right? These are the things that people want to do with the Skitarii, right? They want to use the Cord Claw Strike because it looks the coolest. And if this is the idea behind this build, awesome. I could think of probably a more optimal way to build it, but that's whatever. But if you want to use Cord Claw Strike a lot, then this is a pretty decent build for it. Not the best, but pretty decent. And people definitely want to use has both skulls here, so that's probably what they're orienting it around. But it's by no means is this anywhere near like strongest or whatever. And then, you know, not that I care about Games Lantern because I don't even upload my stuff there anymore, but, you know, 53 upvotes, it's gonna tell people to play this and they're just not gonna have a good time, and they're gonna use the Super Flame Skull and be like, what the fuck is this piece of shit? So, I don't know. It'll be fine, right, for most people's purposes, and it's very much emblematic of the class, but it is nowhere near, like, strong or optimized, and I just wanted to take its task for being, just wild. I cannot get there with this perk of servo-skull. Jesus! Alright, anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I'm Mr. Yeti here. See you next time. Bye-bye.